when it comes to execution level things, right? If you execute at a high level, that's easily imprinted on everybody else.
Hey, welcome to 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis, nature version. We're a father-son leadership podcast where we talk with other lifelong learners about making an impact and solving big problems. And you know what? I'm super excited. Anytime we get to hang out with Jason, our good buddy, Jason Miller, and the birds with the mountains in the background, it makes me want to just pick up my desk and move it out to my backyard because the two of the three of us can go outside and enjoy being outside right now. Right, Camden?
No, I cannot enjoy being outside right now. We're already at 100 and it's freaking 8 a.m. But we got monsoon season coming in, so that'll slow things down a bit. But I am insanely jealous of Jason's background. For those who follow us, watch all the whiskey words, all that kind of stuff. That's the background that gets all the compliments. My poppies out here when we did it in Tucson, that's nice. That's the background now.
Yeah, it's real. Look, it's real.
Go stand on that railing behind you to prove it. Hey, come back here.
There we go. Ain't no green screen.
Well, there we go.
No AI there.
That's right. Well, there's a Cam and Otis show, legacy show, validation. First off, that is not a fake.
I gotta say, whenever I redo the intro, like with the theme song and all that from Cousin Bobby, I might have to throw the clip of Jason running back there because that is too perfect.
That's about as fast as you're ever gonna see me run too.
That was lightning fast. Speaking of fast, what came to mind for me, and it always does when you and I talk. Is the shifting, the ability to, and I think this has been one of the keys to success for you in your business life and truthfully in your military career too. But is that ability to take that step, but then quickly shift. Could you walk us through, that thought process of, hey, A didn't work. Let me try this one. Because I think that's a really amazing skill that you've developed.
Yeah. Well, I always look at it this way when it comes to business, personal life, any of those things, right? Because they're all kind of one and the same. I don't really believe in work-life balance. I think that's kind of a misnomer. But, it comes down to, in life, there's life and business, there's landmines. Nothing's perfect, right? So you're walking along doing what you think you need to do, like a bobblehead, right? And doing your thing. And all of a sudden, oh, there's a trip. There's a landmine in front of you, whatever that might be. Well, you got two choices: step on it or pivot around it, right? That's the choices you have. But you have to learn a lot of lessons to get there to even know that landmine's buried there. Right. So that's, there's no tilt rod on that one. You can't see it. So, and that's where, we all have to learn some of those landmine lessons as we go through business too. But man, shortcut them if you can, and I've been able to shortcut a lot of those through mentors of my own, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And so you can maneuver past some of those things. So some of it's trial by fire. Some of it's drinking through the water hose. Some of it, you step on it once, you're not going to do it again. And you know what? There's another issue and another problem that a lot of people do too, is they step on the same landmine twice, 3 times, 4 times, and they don't have to, but they don't ask for help either. And it's probably one of the biggest downfalls of most CEOs, business owners, however you want to title yourself, is not asking for help, right? And it's not hard to do that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I answered the question or not, but
Yeah, no, definitely. But what I'm curious about, you talked about, having to like learn those lessons. Do you think it's something, Jason? Dad, because I like when we have people like Jason on, because I can jump right to the big questions. Do you think it's something where each one of those has to be learned individually, or what are some like rules of thumbs that we might be able to apply? Because I think that's kind of the difficult thing a lot of times, whether it's life lessons or lessons in business, is you kind of have to run into that wall sometimes. You don't, even if somebody tells you 5 times the stove's hot, you still have to feel it in order to actually make that decision. Could you talk a little bit about maybe some rules of thumbs or what your thoughts are with that?
Well, I mean, how many times do you have to be told as a kid not to pee on an electric fence? Right? I mean, maybe I'm just unusual, but I did it more than once. I got talked into it more than once. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it all kind of comes down to how long do you want to beat your head on the wall, right? Because we can choose to do that. We can choose to sit there and just slam your face against a brick wall over and over and over again, or step back, retool, reevaluate, go through troop leading procedures and continue forward, right? So, I mean, that's your options. It's not like there's not A through X option here. The option is you either keep slamming into it or you pivot around it. It's pretty simple. And that's the same in life and business. No different than being married, right? With your spouse and your kids. It's not perfect. Life isn't perfect. Anybody that says, "Oh yeah, my marriage is awesome. We're perfect. We're Hollywood," right? BS. That's crap, right? But you know what? You learn lessons through, being married, just like you learn lessons through business, like you learn lessons through your kids, your clients, all those things. You can either choose to keep bouncing off into the wall or pivot around it and do it as quickly as possible. I do love the saying, and I have no idea who said it, but fail as fast as you can and fail forward. Whoever said it, I credit you. I don't know who that is,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, and there's one more piece that I've always heard with it is fail often too,
yeah.
which means that you got to keep trying. Uh,
Iterate.
one of the things that comes to mind because I'm visualizing being able to recognize the tripwires and things like that. In business, what could be some of those indicators as the CEO that they could look for, just that would help them avoid that minefield, not just that one mine, but that whole minefield.
Right.
What's some indicators they can do?
Well, data matters, right? And I always say there's a lot of people in life that can lie to you. Math never ever lies, ever. It's right Monday through Sunday, 168 hours a week, no matter what. It's never going to be wrong. So have data points to follow. That it's like a P&L. Everybody, that's like the North Star for a business, right? But it's a trailing indicator, right? So by the time you get it, it's a trailing indicator. So what do people normally do? They kind of dismiss it. But how can you know where to go if you don't know where you went last month, right? So how do you then push that next needle if you're not paying attention to those key performance indicators that you have in a company? And if you're a bigger company and have, directors or other people, right? Now they run those KPIs and feed them KPIs up into you so you can make decisions and plan accordingly how to like maneuver your ship on the next path, right? because the honest to God's truth is once you hit a certain place in business, you're no longer maneuvering you're maneuvering an entire ship now. And that takes data. That takes data points. That takes people doing what they're supposed to do. And you guiding it based off of key performance indicators every single week.
How do you help your team to shift that mindset? Because I think that's a little bit of difference. I think a lot of times of working in the business versus on the business and those kind of things of like not looking at those lag metrics and looking forward more so. How do you help to get your team in that? Because you still want to look at those KPIs. You still use those, like you're saying, but you don't want them dwelling on the past like that. You want it looking forward. How do you make that shift?
Well, that's just good leadership. I mean, there's no shift to be had there. That's just a good leadership from the beginning, right? And making sure you have the right faces in the right spaces. Because look, way too many times, Jill should be doing Joe's job and Joe should be doing Jill's job. I've had it happen to me. So, but I think you just don't give, I don't ever give my team the reason to look backwards, right? So there's no point in it. It doesn't service anything to look back on something, especially the negative, right?
Mm.
That does no good. It's great to celebrate positive in the past, but you can't give notions to continue to perpetuate stuff that happened last month. Maybe it was negative, right? But what's it going to do for you today? I mean, last year we had in one of my other companies, my agency, we mixed up two major corporate credit cards for two corporations and charged $250,000 on the wrong card. That was a $250,000 mistake. But you know what? We just kept moving. That's all you can do. I didn't fire that person for that mistake. It's an expensive mistake, but you know what? What are you going to do? People make mistakes. You just got to keep moving. So don't look in the past.
That's a really great leadership piece. I'd love to dive into, maybe dissect a little bit more. When you have a team member that makes a mistake like that, and that's a significant mistake, no doubt. And in some organizations, that mistake right there may cause the padlock to be put on the door, right? How do you, as a leader, handle that? I mean, because what that natural reaction is to freaking flip out. So, and that does us no good, right? So how do you handle that as a leader?
Some of that depends on where you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think what life cycle you're at in business. Somebody that's a lot, younger in business perhaps, and maybe they have less risk tolerance. They're going to act a little differently there, right? Where, so I don't necessarily ever like to use myself as a great example for that because number one, we got hardened in the military too. So stuff, you're deployed and you're used to stuff hitting the fan all the time. And so you deal with stuff a lot differently. So when it's something that's not life threatening, I mean, yeah, it sucks, but it's also not going to end your life either. And I would say that for really any business is there again, you just have to look forward, not look backwards. And sure, you might, go take it out on your punching bag out in your garage, right? Get it out, whatever. But because I've done that many times too. But because no matter what, we're all going to get frustrated. We're going to get pissed off, right? Just don't make that present within your team and just be the cool head in the room. And what I like to do is always, I never position myself as like, I'm the chief of, in charge of everything. I'm the one that'll sit in the back of the room and, be the just listening, right? Why? Because you just the outcomes are much better that way. And great, talk amongst the team about this mistake that got made. How do we prevent it in the future? What are the consequences and fallout that we have to deal with the company, so on and so forth. And then how do we move forward to recoup that money that was lost, right? And then you put a plan together to figure out how are we going to recoup that in a different way from another client. And that's the key part of that. That's the leadership lesson there, is when you fall down, you got to get back up, but then figure out how to recoup that time and effort of that fall. So, yeah.
I'd be curious to hear how you've managed to, or maybe even ways you've tried if you haven't found a way that necessarily works, but of trying to teach that lesson to members of your team who weren't military. Because I always think that's an interesting thing. Like Dad always joke with you when we talk team stuff, and it's like, yeah, of course we could just ship them off to the Q course. Yeah, we could do all these things, but that's not really a realistic application for most people in their business. What's a way that you found to kind of teach those lessons without shipping them off to boot camp, Jason?
That's teaching by doing, right? Period. I mean, your people will watch everything you do, so 100%, and they're going to tend to mimic the things that you do. So if you teach, by the fire hose method, right, is not do as I say, not as I do, right? Do as I say and as I do, as I do too, right? And that's probably the best way you can lead anybody, is teach through good example, because people are going to catch on to that, and inherently they're going to want to be like you. They're going to want to perform like you. Don't ever expect somebody to care about your business more than you. That's not what I'm saying. Okay. What I'm saying is, when it comes to execution level things, right? If you execute at a high level, that's easily imprinted on everybody else.
Yeah, that's such a great point, in that leading by example. I mean, one of those fundamental things that we learned in our first days in the Army, and the old fire team leadership methodology of just follow what I do, shut up, and everything I do, you do. Everywhere I look, you look. And there's so much to be said and gained from that in everything else in life and in business. And you're 100% right. I've talked about that, as the leader, as the boss, whatever you want to call it. If you stroll in at 9:30 and you're telling everybody else to be in there at 7:30, what do you think's going to happen? They're going to start strolling in at 9:15 just so they get there in front of you, because obviously it's not important. That start time is not important. One of the things that I've always love it when you share this, is because you own 13 and a half businesses now, right? And my math right?
17 and a half.
17 and a half. All right. See, that Monday through Sunday math never lies, does it?
The half is just as of recent.
I know. Breaking news, folks.
Yeah,
breaking news here on the here on the 10X Your Team. I was going to say Camden and Otis.
That's all right.
People know. What I'd love for you to share is a methodology of time management, in that, because so many people that you and I've worked with over the years, they can't manage their time for one company, but you got 17 and a half.
Right.
What's maybe a technique or a methodology that you use to manage that much going on?
Well, for starters, I don't think you can manage much of anything when it comes to time, right? I mean, the it's more allocation of time.
Mm.
And time allocation, we all get the same 168 hours a week, right? So we have to learn to allocate time in buckets, right? And uh once you figure that out for yourself, what that looks like for you, right? Because this is an individual task here, right? This is not a group task. You have to be able to allocate your time on your calendar that makes the most sense for you. Like, I'm kind of calendar overt nowadays, but that doesn't mean that my calendar is still has the things on it needs to have on it. It just doesn't have minutia on it. That's all.
Mhm.
It only has the things that this block for this block for that block. And, you know, there's no way in hell I could run all that. No way. So that's not even possible. I'm the sitting CEO for SAB, and I mean, that's enough on my own plate right now.
Mm.
But that's where you've got to find the right people then that can run those other companies for you, right? That makes sense. And, you know, if they're running efficiently and effectively, you got to show up, you know, once a month for a meeting, or whenever they think that you need to be involved for a larger decision, then you got to show up and do your thing. But that leads into empowerment and all kinds of, you know, dirt road paths we could go down with that. But what is it at the end of the day? It's allocating your time to make sure that you're doing the right things, not just things. Profit
Mm.
generating things, visionary things. I can throw out 100 little overused sayings here. Uh, work on it, not in it. Shall I continue? No, I won't. But there, all of those things are true though, because if you don't allocate your time, right, and that's not just business time, that's family time, that's time to get together with the buddies and smoke cigars and do all those things too, right? Because we all need some other outlet. Um, and you just got you take that calendar and whatever it is you're doing, break it down into profit generating activities as a business owner, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters, right? Whatever's left, allocate that to personal things, friends, family, so on and so forth. That's the best way I can put it. That's how I do it anyway. It works for me.
How do you kind of decide that you've put in enough effort into those different projects? Because I think that's always an interesting thing. When you're a driven person and you're looking at all these goals, it's very easy to say that I could be doing more here. I could be pushing harder on this. When you've got 17 and a half things you could be pushing on, I'm sure that there's things all the time like, oh, I could have been pushing on that, this. How do you make sure that you're putting enough effort into each of those different baskets?
I don't, because I have a team. Right? And that's the important key to that conversation, is the right team takes all of that off of you, right?
Mm.
And then you can stay in visionary planning mode and make sure you're doing quarterly planning, you know, monthly, quarterly planning, so on and so forth, of the strategy for those different entities that you own, or if it's just one, whatever, right? But then at some point you've got to know, look, I put these people in there to do a job,
Mm-hmm.
not for me to come in and do it for them, right? So short of a freaking star cluster going up, right? I mean, you know, leave it alone if there's no problems, and they'll let you know, because I'm a huge believer, and Otis will grab this one right away. We don't need to protect the boss, right? You know, you don't need to do that. And like, my team knows that, but I don't run a rigid model. So I can be contacted at any time about any given thing. And that's just the way I like to run things. because that can let you sometimes overt a problem too. So I'm just not a micromanager, and that's at the end of the day, people want to micromanage stuff, and you'll get the outcomes of micromanagement, that'll just ruin a company completely if you don't let people, run with stuff.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I want to re-ask my question just in a specific area, because there's a nugget there that I could tell you have, and I just want to make sure I get to it, which is, like, reframe that into, let's say, like, family time, where it's like, you look at something like that where there really is, you could always spend more time with the family, or more time with whiskey and cigars, whatever it is, those kind of extra things where it still is, you're looking at like, I could be doing more. How do you make sure you're doing enough in those and kind of measure that you're, spread properly?
It's tough. It really is tough. It's always a push and pull, no matter what. There's not really a perfect answer for that. Because guess what? Sometimes you got to sacrifice on one side for the other. Sometimes you got to sacrifice this for that. Sometimes this thing comes up and you got to fly to Vermont for a week and do something in Vermont or whatever, and maybe you had a family trip planned for that time. But there again, that's just, you either choose one or the other. If you're an employee, you don't deal with that. If you're going to own your own thing, sometimes you got to deal with that. And then that's having a family that's understanding enough to know, like my wife, she's like, okay, well, we'll see you when you get back.
Again, that's followed by again.
Yeah, followed by who's coming?
Again.
So I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer for that necessarily. It's something you kind of got to figure out for yourself. And there's not always a canned answer for everything either. Sometimes it's very accustomed to what your life is, right? Some people need more of this that don't need more of that, right? Like personally, I don't need to have 50 friends in my life. I don't need that. I need a couple. I need like 3 or 4 people in my immediate circle that I know I can hang out with. I can have a good time. It doesn't have to be serious. I don't have to have the CEO hat on. I don't need to do any of that. It's just some dudes hanging out, smoking cigars, drinking whiskey, and that's it, right? And you just bullshit. There's something to be said about having that too. And I don't even know where I was going with that, but somewhere. I guess that's in line with the, you kind of got to customize that for your own life, not just follow somebody else's plan.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking with my veteran mastermind last night about that exact thing of, there's only one person that can judge it. And, I think the biggest gap that people have is they don't do the critical analysis of those relationships, the personal, the business, and when I say business relationship, I'm not just talking about, partners and clients. I'm talking about your relationship with the actual business itself and how, that nurturing of that also, because that has to be handled. How much time do I need to spend in there? Or if I am going to take this vacation, what's going to happen to the business and all those sort of things? You have to look at that. And I think that's such a critical piece that if you don't take the time to just do some checks back to the data, like you said, where am I spending my time? Have I, when was the last time I had lunch with Miss Suzanne? When was the last time, I hung out and just shot the shit, or did the personal time just go off into the woods for a while? Those sort
Or
of
drove
things.
12 hours to Tucson.
Yeah, when was the last time I did? Well, that's
I want to wait a few months.
Damn. 12. Why has it got to be so far to Tucson, by the way?
I know. Working on it.
Yeah. Okay.
Speaking of which, Jason, I got a business plan. I'll send it over to you later.
All right.
We're taking bullet train from Monument to Tucson.
There we go. That's where everyone really wants to travel when you think about it. Monument to Tucson, just back and forth. That's the real spot we need to focus on.
I think those are some couple of great travel hubs. So, man, yeah, where the hell was I going on that? Jeez. It is so. Back to the business and what would be, because we've both talked with folks and some of them the same folks, but what would be that one nugget? Somebody that is just shy of cash flow positive, right? They're on a trajectory, right? And in 6 months, they're going to be in the black. That's CEO, founder, whatever widget, service, doesn't matter, because the principles remain the same. They're on a trajectory of cash flow positive. What would be the nugget you would give to them to make sure they don't fuck it up?
Yeah, stay on course. Stay the course. Stay the course, stay steady. Don't change things. It's another plight of business owners, including me. Oh, well, there's a new shiny thing. Let me go get that, right? Squirrel syndrome. Boo! There goes another one, right? Oh, let me catch that one, right? We all do it, but what you have to do is just try to cage that as much as you can. Stay on target. Follow your KPIs, look at the data, follow where the data is going, and don't pivot away from that. We all have to do little micro movements along the way, micro pivoting, right? But to stay on course sometimes, right? That's where those little landmines come in, right? Because guess what? The market changes, your audience changes. The algorithms on LinkedIn change. I don't know, pick one. Right? So there's a lot of things that can affect that. But if you just stay on course with what you're doing that's working, stay on course. And that's not enlightening, but I see so many people that don't do that. They shook and jive left and right trying to figure out how to make it faster and all these things. But if you're just about ready to hit, positive revenue, God, stay on course and get there first, and then get cash flow positive. So then you can make shifts to then try to push that train a little faster. But don't try to do it all at once either, because that's usually where the C-130 gets a burn in.
Yeah, and so many people do that.
I don't get that one. Sorry, I need my civilian explanation there. Sorry.
Well, the C-130 is a main troop transport aircraft,
right?
And a burn-in means it just
going down
into the ground.
All right, just like that. All right, yeah. Thank you.
That's it. That's not a good thing. And it's so true. So many. I think that is the burden that we as entrepreneurs carry with us. Is let's create something new. Let's create this. Let's create this. And the difficulty to bring it back around to something you said earlier is, if you are that entrepreneur operating by yourself, thinking you can create, the next bread slicer, you will likely chase not only the next bread slicer, the next bologna slicer, the next tree cutter downer. You're running around because you're just creating. And the secret to it, I believe, is having those people around you, those mentors, coaches, advisors who say, hey, grab you by the collar, pull you back over here and say, hey, dude, how about we get this taken care of and focus on this? Because that's what entrepreneurs are, creators, right? Right, Jason?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, here's what I'm not saying, and I don't want people to take it this way either. What I'm not saying is don't continue to innovate. That's not what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
We have to continue to innovate no matter what, right? But there's a big difference between innovating and chasing squirrels, right? They're two different things. And we have to continue to innovate no matter what. So don't take what I said as like, oh, well, I can just only, I got to do this and just only go that way. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is stay on course with the current strategy if it's working. You can still innovate, just don't chase squirrels left and right.
Yeah.
I want to add one nugget because I found this helps me a lot as a leader. Is it's a little bit of recognizing the division of labor, like you're talking about, Jason, of empowering your team and all that kind of all the buzzword stuff there. But of like, if you're diving in on the LinkedIn algorithm and you've never done social media marketing, maybe you need to pass that one off. Maybe that's not the micro pivot for you. Maybe that's something that somebody in your team needs to be covering. Right? It's very easy when you're good at solving problems. You're looking for problems. You're always looking for things to solve. Really easy to go look at all those, recognize what you're actually good at. Right?
Yeah, right.
So
100%.
is that what you learned today?
That is not. Would you like to hear what I learned today?
Well, I was, you know what? Let's break it up. Since Jason's here, you tell us what you learned today, and then I'll go.
Yeah, Jason, you said this of don't give your team the opportunity to look back. Like, kind of set it up as a leader that it's always looking forward like that, and not ever giving them the opportunity to look back like that. And I think that's a really important lesson. And then I'd add another layer, which I think works in my rugby context more so than the business, which is also don't allow them to ever look forward. We're not talking about Cal next week. We're talking about Central Washington this week. We're talking, it's like always framing it that way so that they pick up on that, leading by example. How about you, Dad? What'd you learn?
Math never lies. I mean, it doesn't. 2 plus 2 is 5. I don't care how much you want to fight against it. Oh, wait, it's not. No, it's not. So guess
Okay,
what?
Don.
2 plus 2 is 4, right? But the point is, it doesn't lie, because what happened? 2 plus 2 is 5. What happened? Everybody's like, oh, damn, Otis, that's wrong. No, because math doesn't lie. It ain't 4.
Right.
Or it is 4, but it ain't 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
See, there you go. Math
right.
doesn't lie. Jason, how about you, man? What'd you learn?
I would say you said something earlier, and it reminded me that growth comes in many forms, right? So, growth being personal development, growth being, mentally, growth being helping grow others. There's not always some kind of, and to add on to that, just remember there doesn't always have to be a bill attached to that.
Hmm.
Right.
Awesome. Jason, how do folks find you? What's the best way to get in touch with you and follow you?
Your house.
Yeah. that is a technique.
No, LinkedIn's a great way to find me. You can find a lot of the companies that I'm involved in at jasonmiller.vip. That's kind of my hub site. Strategic Advisor Board's my main company. That's strategicadvisorboard.com. There's no Y. It's not advisory. I'm
going to try to get that right in the show notes this time.
Drives me crazy. So anyway, but you can put strategicadvisoryboard.com because I own that URL too.
Thanks to me misspelling it all the time.
Yep, me too.
Yeah, but those are the best ways to get a hold of me. LinkedIn's probably one of the easiest ways to get a hold of me. I'm still fairly active there when it comes to DMs and whatnot. I don't really let my team do all of that.
Awesome. Jason, man, great to hang out with you this morning. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, man. It's always good.
Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank y'all for listening to today's episode of 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. And a special thanks to our guest, Jason Miller, for joining us today. Remember, you can watch full episodes of the show on YouTube at 10X Your Team. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to pass along to other lifelong learners in your tribe so they can enjoy it too. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As always, the full archive of episodes available at www.10xyourteam.net. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all next time.